People rather to put their money in a financial institution and have a fixed interest, rather than to go and buy government of Antigua paper at this time. Maybe 5 years from now. But if he achieves it, and he comes back to this Honourable House next year, I'll be the first to get up and say, well done, Mr. Minister, you've earned your keep. There are several giveaways, Madam Speaker, on the tax side. The 2% tax reduction for sole proprietorships, Madam Speaker. And you know, they make a big deal about the 2% tax. I mean, I'm no friend of Leonard Weston. He curses me every opportunity he gets. He maligned me more than he have ever maligned you, my dear Minister. But the truth is he couldn't get more than 36 votes in St. Peter's constituency. He couldn't get a rubber muster. And out of Parliament, I don't believe he got 15. I mean, I'm not a person to come into this Honourable House and malign or degrade anybody. But I think there's no more conceited person in this country than Leonard Weston. But the 2% tax, after all, is not so much of a bad tax. Because, Madam Speaker, you see, unincorporated businesses operated by sole proprietorships amount to nearly most of the businesses in Antigua. I believe it's something like 3,000 sole proprietorships. It could be more. And under the proposed tax measures that the Honourable Minister of Finance is proposing, that we abolish the 2% turnover and we revert to the 25% tax for unincorporated businesses, that will now require those unincorporated businesses to go and hire tax specialists, to hire auditors, accounting firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG. You can't subject a little mechanic shop or a little auto body repair shop to go and hire tax accountants to file your returns. It is a much more simple way just to pay the 2% on your gross turnover, and the businesses are enjoying doing it. So why abolish it? I don't think that makes sense, Madam Speaker, in all honesty. And a characteristic of all these small businesses is that they don't keep proper financial records. They don't. That's the reality. They don't have accountants, and they don't want to pay accountants to keep proper financial records. But now you are forcing them to go and impose an additional cost for them doing this business, an additional burden by hiring these high-priced accountants to file their returns to the Commissioner of Inland Revenue. I think, in all honesty, Madam Speaker, that is a retrograde step. It is a retrograde step, and I do not think that that is a good initiative. Reduction in corporate tax, I'm happy to see you have done that. But you have not kept to your word in this agenda for change. Because I crave your indulgence, Madam Speaker, on page 8, it says we will reduce the corporate tax rate to 20% beginning January 2005. It didn't say to 30%, and in some instances 27.5%. You see, maybe boy quote this and not you, Honourable Minister, so I forgive you. Foreign exchange transactions, reduction of stamp duty and residential mortgages. I have no quarrel with all those giveaways. I have no quarrel. But the Honourable Minister needs to come and let us know what is the loss of revenue from these reduction in taxes. And will the loss of revenue in these reduction of those tax measures, we're not talking about the dog license, nobody ever paid that, whether that loss of revenue will be amply compensated by the proposed personal income tax and the sales and excise tax. We need to know those figures, and I'm sure in his winding up, he will enlighten the Honourable House and the country. Because those factors are critical in deciding whether or not that this budget is a reality or it's a farce. Whether it's realistic or it's unrealistic. We need to know, Mr. Minister. The IMF report also, Madam Speaker, it made mention, there concerns, the Article 4 country report, about the school meals program. It is not for the school meals program and not for the uniform program, but UPP, true to their word, they promised the people of this country, and they're living up to that promise. I commend you for that. But don't come to the Honourable House and tell us that it's going to cost $4.5 million, when you very well know that the school meals program is going to cost in the vicinity of at least a minimum of $15 million. If you intend to give, am I correct? I mean, if you, unless my mathematics, I can't count, but if you intend to give 10,000 primary students, and how many students there are? 10,000? A nutritious meal every day. The cost of that meal, you can't buy a nutritious meal for less than $8 to $10 minimum, Madam Speaker. I mean, you're looking at 100,000 Madam Speaker, per day. And times what? 200 days? You're looking at $20 million. But the Honourable Minister told us $4.5 million. So I stand to be corrected, but I want some explanation from the Honourable Minister. Also critical to the success of the budget, Madam Speaker, is the proposed $650 million write-off in public debt that the Minister so eloquently stated that he is going to accomplish. Again, I think that is unrealistic, overly ambitious. If you get $650 million written off in 12 months, Mr. Minister, I think you would have done this country well, and you would have earned your keep. We'll wait to see. Time will tell. Reduction in mortgage rates by Antigua Commercial Bank. We've got to be careful with that, Madam Speaker, because this measure could also lead to an increase in bad credits for the bank if other banks do not respond by a similar reduction. And then you will create an unnecessary pressure on the Antigua Commercial Bank profitability and their viability. And we know they are already very vulnerable. Government over the years has had to show up the Antigua Commercial Bank and place millions of dollars of social security funds on deposit in that institution. And we have done so because we believe in our indigenous organizations.
But they have also facilitated the Antigua Labour Party administration.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. But they've made money that they're in the business of lending, you know, Prime Minister. They're in the business of lending.
You must balance your discussion.
Proposed increase in pensions, I have no problem with that. But I would have preferred to see a comprehensive pension reform package. Don't just come and throw a figure out and tell us this is how much millions of dollars you're putting in the estimates for pension reform. Come and tell us what is the comprehensive pension reform and how you're going to fund it, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, apart from the personal income tax, which I'm totally opposed to, and I could never in all honesty support, because I think it's unnecessary. I think it's unnecessary. I don't have a problem with paying, Madam Speaker. I'm saying that you are reversing 28 years of a custom pattern in this country that is embedded in the psyche of the people that they do not have to pay personal income tax.
Embedded in the psyche of the people too.
Madam Speaker, the efforts to cut the government wage bill will undoubtedly, Madam Speaker, result in widespread job loss. And I heard the Honourable Member for St. George today. I was watching on television. You look beautiful. And Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member for St. George said that we are going to achieve this mainly through the reduction or the cutting out of overtime. But you know, Honourable Member, that is not so. That is not, you're fooling the people. That is not going to save 20%. And in the estimates, that doesn't even save 5%. And in the estimates, the Honourable Minister of Finance he has cut the allocation for salaries, personal emoluments to public servants by 20%. Now, how much people we employ in the public service? Not roughly 13,000 in total? And 3 in the other statutory boards and government.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member is misleading this Honourable House. I outlined a number of measures. In which we propose to...
Point of elucidation.
What's that?
Elucidation.
Point of elucidation. Sorry. There were a number of measures which were outlined this morning in which we propose to reduce the wage bill by 20%, not just by overtime. So I prefer if the Honourable Member would become familiar with the truth and speak the truth in this Honourable House.
Misleading.
Madam Speaker, I'm sticking by what I said. I am saying to this country that the UPP administration intends to send home in the vicinity of 2,600 public servants. That is 20% of the public sector. We employ roughly 13,000 people. And you're saying you'll cut it by 20%? That is 2,600 people. Well, let the Minister of Finance tell the IMF and the World Bank he don't intend to send home 2,000 people. Let us know. We offered voluntary redundancy. We offered it. We offered voluntary severance. Scarcely anybody took it up.